Well, welcome to Silverstone for round 10 and 11 of the TCR UK Championship. And, well, every race weekend, I always wonder myself what goes on behind the scenes. And I'm sure the viewers at home wonder somewhat the same thing. Well, we're going to go have a wander around the paddock and find out what exactly happens behind the scenes at a TCR UK round. Let's go. The first part of a race meeting is the race centre, and here at Silverstone, TCR UK have the race centre where they would invite guests, the drivers, to sign themselves on, have driver briefing and basically relax. As you can see, driver already doing some business down there as well, so it seems to be a favourite place for drivers to go. And for staff as well, including myself, Paul O'Neill, or Andy McEwen, where they would come and steal a coffee or two and also a stray Phil Kinch. An important part of every race weekend is making sure that the drivers have access to spare parts, and that is exactly what this truck has got. TCR always bring a spare truck with a lot of spare parts in it, in terms of body panels, suspension, brakes, engine parts, anything like that that a driver may need over the course of a weekend. If a race has gone wrong and they need some assistance, the TCR UK team are here to help them out. It is always a vital part of the weekend, and it's not just for one manufacturer. They've got parts in here for Audis, Cupras, the Hyundais as well. They've got everything in here that these drivers will need to get through a race weekend. Behind the scenes in some of the team garages is another very prestigious place to actually be able to visit. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in a garage here at TCR UK. When you're not seeing them racing out on track, what's happening? They're checking the car, they're weighing it, they're making sure everything's aligned, and just going over driver settings. Like you can see here, all the wheels off the car, preparing everything, checking over the suspension, anything that happens, because touring car racing, as you've watched it, is quite feisty. It is a non-contact sport, but that doesn't mean there isn't out there. So these mechanics here work so hard to make sure that these cars are primed and ready to go for each and every race. Once the races have actually got going, it is vital that they are monitored and race controlled carefully, and no better place for that is race control here at Silverstone, the National race control. You can see they've got lots and lots of screens there, cameras out on circuit, and in constant communication that you could probably hear in the background there to the marshals out on circuit. Now, at any racetrack in the UK, in fact the world, we can't go racing without the Orange Army, so we thank them massively for what they do behind the scenes at these race meetings. But being in here right now, very special place to be. Lots of work happens in here. Another part of a race weekend and behind the scenes is, of course, the broadcast. And Alpha Live this year have been providing all the live coverage, as well as we did last year as well for TCR UK. And let's have a little look behind the scenes of what goes on in here as well, because a lot happens. Now, invited guests only. Luckily, I think we're invited, so I think we're all good to step in. Now, we have to be a bit quiet because they're currently commentating at the moment. You can see you've got Andy over there commentating on some of the races. Phil Kinch, who does all the behind-the-scenes media side of things and all the social media. He's working very hard as well. You have Tom over in the corner, Luke from Alpha Live doing all the branding. There's occasionally a TCR driver in here watching some of the racings. I don't know why, but as you can see, everyone working very hard in here to make sure that they provide a stellar broadcast for you, the viewers at home. At the end of a race, drivers all want to head to one thing, and that's this, the first place board in Parc Ferme. But before they head to this, they've one, got to win the race, and two, they've got to pass scrutineering checks. Let's have a look at some of the tools that the scrutineers would use before the drivers are allowed to step foot on that podium. When the drivers come in at the end of the race with the checks that need to be done, the roller's here to determine the height of the front of the car, and they've got these handy little pieces of paper here that tells them the ground clearance that these cars need to have, with some of the Audis being 70mm off the ground, and they would use the 70mm roller, and it literally just gets rolled underneath the front splitter just to make sure it's conforming with the ride height part of the regulations. The same as the weight, the scales in here that the drivers would come into this garage, they would drive onto them and make sure that they meet those minimum weight requirements. And remember, there's compensation ballast that's on board of this, with Boardley taking 40 kilos as well over the course of the weekend. Each driver has to look out for that one, and there's a minimum weight that is determined before the race weekend what these drivers have to go to. And if all of that is passed and it's checked and it's all green lighted, they can stand on the 1, 2, 3 spots on the podium here at TCR UK. Well, there you have it. That's what happens behind the scenes at a TCR UK weekend. As you can imagine, lots going on to make sure that the racing is amazing. And of course, the broadcast that you, the viewer at home, can see is also amazing. You can catch the rest of the weekend live, of course. We're at Silverstone, we're at Donington, and we're at Brands for the rest of the 2023 season.